Good evening, everyone. Sunday, the 8th of August, episode number 50. Who would have thought of what's been happening? This is a pretty special one, episode 50. It's fair to say we did a little bit of umming and ahhing on who we would get on as our 50th guest and whether it was a big deal to turn 50. Here's another bloke that's turned 50 not long ago. Cuz, how are we?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
Welcome to the 50 Club, mate.
Firstly, mate, could we raise the bat to each other? Half century?
Yeah, absolutely. We always joke about it, but show number 1 went through to show number 5 fairly quickly during lockdown 1, and sadly we find ourselves still in lockdown at show number 50. So not exactly where we thought we'd be or wanted to be, but the great news is we are here and we're still reaching out to people, and that's the most important part that we've established on this show. What's your thoughts here, Cuz?
For sure, mate. And look, the events of the last 2 weeks from an Olympic point of view, the 12 days of that competition, hasn't there been some amazingly wonderful, inspirational things for not only our country, but all the countries and all the things that we're going through with COVID and whatever?
Absolutely. Some of those Olympic moments, when you see, mid-event, someone stops to help up the next guy or girl. Jen Lacar's, I'm not sure what her new married name was at the time, but to do that, to go over that last jump in the steeple and snap her Achilles, just devastating. Worked incredibly hard to get there, gets to that point, snaps an Achilles. The 2 boys running the 1500, just incredible moments. And yeah, there was a big knock on the Olympics, put it that way, wasn't there, whether it was going to go ahead. And I think it's just been great for people around the world to be able to tune in and watch that sport and kind of forget about the COVID bubble, although we couldn't really, because everywhere you looked there was a mask or a sanitizer, or it was kind of a pretty tough on the Olympic environment too, which must be hard as an athlete to perform at that stage.
The thing I found amazingly good about it, and it made it flow pretty well, as one of our guests on the show, Jason Richardson, some of the wonderful work he did as the sort of almost the first interviewer of the athletes. They found a way just to deal with it. It's not an ideal situation, but it's the situation we're in. To me, the highlight for me as a father of teenage boys, listening to, and I don't want to talk about it now even, listening to Andrew Gay speak last night, the effort of the boomers, Paddy Mills, but he rang his dad and he said, Dad, before it happened, and just to see him, he's tearing up, Andy Marr's tearing up, Lisa Sedlecki's tearing up, just that's why they had the Olympics to me.
Yep.
And that's why I think what a success for all the countries that competed.
Yeah, and in the end, it's pretty sad that Benny Simmons didn't buy in, mate, and get involved in that, because that's why you play, mate. Paddy Mills was the absolute epitome of an absolute superstar, no doubt. He's brought everything, and not only that, mate, he absolutely killed it in that last game when we needed him most. So, not only a flag bearer, but incredible talent, superstar, our first Indigenous flag bearer as well. And take my hat off. He was the best on the court by a mile.
And the respect he also got to as from not only his peers, but his opponents. Like, definitely. There was a lot, like even the Americans, and if you look back in few other years when they had their dream teams, and like even this year's team was a great team, they respect Joe Ingles, they respect Paddy Mills, because they're either teammates or they play with them in, and so there wasn't a lot of trash talk. It was hard and physical, but there was a lot of respect and whatever, which to me, that's the whole thing about not even the Olympics, but let's all get on. But, mate, stop talking. I'm going to stop talking. I'm excited about who we've got coming on.
Yes, definitely. Look, we talked about, or we obviously aptly titled this show Sun Rising. When we first started, we thought, is the sun going to rise the way it's going at the moment? And do we get to look out of the window anymore? The good thing about today, the sun did rise, mate, and it was a beautiful sunny day. So if you got out to experience it all, I know our next guest had a little potter around in the garden, which was fantastic to see and enjoy a bit of sunshine. And I'm sure our other guest accompanying him would have charged up the batteries outside, no doubt, for sure. Might have even taken the EJ for a lap, but let's see. So we go with show number 50. Welcome to turning 50, mate. And this is a celebration of Sun Records and the incredible talent that's gone through that place. So let's bring up.
Would you say it's one of the most iconic labels of all time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, turning up at my Nana's house and lifting up the little record cover and seeing that yellow spinning label, as we quickly showed there, with the artist's name, and wait for it to slow down so you could work out who the artist was if you didn't already know. And then most importantly, flip it and find out what was on the B-side. And that was it was an incredible love as a memory for me. And it's so good to have records back in amongst our world again.
It is very good.
Let's bring up a good friend of the show. We've got two to bring up separately. Sadly, they couldn't be together in the same room, so we'll work out how we navigate this during the night. But let's bring up a guy that's appeared on our show a couple of times, first and foremost, and the other one has just appeared once, but it won't be his last, that's for sure. So let's bring up Mr. Dave Cosma. How are you, Dave?
Gentlemen, how you going? All right?
Welcome back.
Oh, did you say gentlemen? Are you talking to us?
Yeah, you're both.
I know you do like to call me something else, so I put up my long name before, Dave.
No, I'm taking on the spirit of that intro about the Olympics and the spirit of everyone getting along, and it's been a beautiful thing. And mate, you gentlemen, thanks for having me back. It's good to be back on the 50th.
Welcome to the 50th celebration, mate.
Bloody hell!
Sure did. It wasn't long ago. We were talking about show 20.
Did you get a chance today, mate? You might have heard in the intro, as and I was saying, did you get a little sneaky little ride in the EJ somewhere today?
Nah,
just for an hour?
I didn't. No, I didn't. Look, I was just too keen to get into the air and outside on my own without the car around me, and we went out for a kick of the footy and had a really good day out. Actually, it was really nice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it was good. And the Bombers won, mate.
Mate, we're just going to keep a lid on that, aren't we? Look at Ez. He hates it. Because you know what happened the last time Melbourne made a grand final, Dave?
Yeah, I know. Mate, it wasn't a good day for him.
But it
wasn't a good day for them.
It
was a bloody good day for us.
That's mate, right. Enough about
great
that.
To have you on, mate.
Enough about that. We get on the man, mate. Get on the boy. Get on the kid.
That's it.
Get him on.
Well, Dave, we might get you to intro our next boy. What do you reckon?
He's mate. He's a man about town at the moment. This bloke, he's got plenty happening. He's a good mate of mine, and the reason we're here talking about this tonight is because we've been working together on it for many years, and it's a pleasure to work with him, and it's going to be a pleasure to introduce him, get him on, Mr. Damon Smith.
G'day, Damon.
Thank
Welcome
you, Dave.
back.
Dave there.
G'day, Damon. How are you, mate?
Good, everyone.
The Brady
well
bunch.
Done. 50 years you've been doing that. Is that what you said? 50 years. Wow.
Correct. And I don't feel a day over 52 myself, so thank you for that, mate. Very observant.
50 shows. That's actually amazing. Seriously. To think that last year, what you started this in a COVID world, in the lockdown, as you said, and you've got your 50 shows under your belt. That's amazing. Well done.
It's a great effort, isn't it, mate?
That's brilliant.
You know, and to add, Aaron, Cuz, Lovey, Berkey, you guys have had just week after week artists helping, supporting, exposing through a time where we've needed that. So it's been really great, and quality too. You boys have shot for the stars. It's nice to
absolutely,
be part of
it, but there's that thing when you're an artist, and David and I know it, and all the people you've had on the show know it. You're doing things off your own back pretty much all the time, and that's what you've done with this show. There's no big sort of Hollywood production. There's no money coming in from networks, and that to me is commendable, because that's what it's all about. That's how the big things start is from doing it this way, and it's fantastic, really good.
Damien, thank you for that, and you too, Dave.
Yeah, well
I've got
said,
to
mate.
honestly say, credit goes to the bloke in my, as I look at the screen, top left-hand corner.
Oh yeah, Aaron's
Mr.
a ripper.
Cusack.
Yeah,
he's an absolute ripper. And Damien, you coming on, you Dave, you actually help me and Az and Lovey and Berkey as well. So it's a two-way street, and that's why I enjoy doing it. I'm sure that Az and Lovey and Berkey do as well.
Yeah, good.
Absolutely. All right, let's kick it off with why we put this show together as number 50, and obviously the backdrop behind me sums it up. But boys, just your first memory, Dave, starting with you, your first memory of Sun Records. Where did you first see the logo? How did it first put that little touch of gold into your heart?
It first came across my radar, being, as you know, it's well documented, I'm a bit of an Elvis fan. So growing up, when I sort of got to the point where I was starting to really discover his music and look into his music, I sort of did it reverse. You listen to all the big hits, or you discover all the big hits, and then sort of I went back to those early days and was just blown away by that early Sun Records sound. And it wouldn't have been, and so that was my first Elvis/Sun Records thing. And I was a Carl Perkins fan too, Blue Suede Shoes, which was recorded there. So, and then it probably wasn't until a few years later that full connection was made with the amount of artists that were actually discovered at that studio and recorded at that label. And it's always sort of been a really important part of my musical influence, and what I really enjoy listening to is that genre and that era, 1950s Sun Records era rock and roll.
Fantastic. And what about you, Damon?
Yeah.
Very similar to Dave, which is why we really get on with this project and do it together, because my memories are of mum and dad, literally dancing around the lounge room after dinner, dad being a buffoon and throwing mum around and dancing. And it was always to rock and roll music. And in Perth, you have station, I can't even remember what it's called, 6KY, I think, but it's similar to the station Dave mentioned the other day. What was that, Dave? The old station that plays all the old stuff in Melbourne?
Gold 104.
Gold 104. So very similar to that. And it was just, it was all the old stuff, including Sun Records stuff. But I didn't really know so much that it was Sun Records until later on, when I started, as you say, looking at the records and the vinyls and even the CDs that we got, a collection of Sun Records songs. But it was through those people. And then years later, I got into country music, believe it or not. And Charlie Rich, was one of those guys that I really liked. And he, being a piano player, and he was a Sun boy as well. And he came a bit later. So we do one of his songs in the show, but we didn't necessarily do his stuff right off the bat. But I mean, it is really an incredible label. And to answer the question before that wasn't directed at Dave or I, but you boys were having a chat before, and I do think that it is one of the most important studios in the world. I think as far as American pop culture goes, it is incredibly important because it's Elvis Presley and these household names, but taking that sound to a new place, it's just incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said.
To me, on my iPod shuffle at the moment, I'm listening to Kentucky Rain by Elvis, Big Hunk of Love by Elvis, and I'm thinking, God, that's good music. It's still good music. I did some for the first time So What's Been Happening, did a little bit of research. Elvis, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, possibly four of the biggest rock and roll stars of the last 70 years.
And absolutely. And an extension of your question, Aaron, when did you come across it? Everyone experiences at Sun Records was so important that everybody will experience at some point of their life that will come across an artist that was born out of Sun Records. And Cuz mentioned Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison, B.B. King, Howlin Wolf, Rufus Thomas Jr., Charlie Rich, they all started their career at Sun Records. And, you know, I can't tell you the amount of times that I'm buying milk at Coles and a Johnny Cash or Roy Orbison song comes on. It may not have been the Sun era, but that's the studio that launched their careers. And that's the incredible part of the story that Damon and I felt just had to be told and had to be shared. It's like people don't realize how important Sam Phillips, who was the man that ran the studio behind you, was in discovering these artists that went on to become household names.
Well, Dave, do you know much about his background, Sam Phillips? Was he a musician himself, or?
No, he wasn't a musician. He wasn't a musician. He grew up on a cotton farm and was exposed to African American music from a young age. And he got into audio engineering and you know, working in radio from a young age. But he bit the bullet in 1950 and started a studio, never having done anything like that at all. And did so mainly to record African American artists because they really were struggling to get any sort of attention, and he felt that was his sort of calling. That's how it started for him, and from there people just rolled up on the door to sort of audition for him, and he discovered them.
Beautiful little snippet there.
He was a pioneer. A pioneer in so many ways. He was even, not a lot of people know this, right? Dave probably does. We've spoken about it, I'm sure. But he was one of the first partners. Sam Phillips was one of the first partners in the Holiday Inn chain. It started in Memphis.
Oh,
and so he was always someone that was he was always looking for a way to make a buck, but he'd do it in a classy way. And he was always trying to invent, which is really cool. He had that real universal appeal to be a pioneer, you know, the vanguard of someone that is actually sitting there recording the person and then getting on the phone to the DJs and saying, hey, I'm sending this record over to you. Why don't you play it? You know, I mean, it's weird that it almost works in a similar way now in some ways in the independent world, but you think about it back then, it's just crazy. It's so cool.
It sure is. And there's no doubt you guys have developed a massive passion for this era as well. And I've known Dave for a long time and seen plenty of that go through his blood. So I'm glad you guys got to connect, Damon, and you've got to put this great show together. So maybe we play this little clip from the show first. What do you think, guys? Is that all right?
Go for it. Got a clip there. Nice.
Well, shake it, baby, shake it. I said, shake it, baby, shake it. I said, shake it, baby, shake it. I said, shake it, baby, shake it. Well, come over, whole lot of shaking going on.
Looks fantastic.
Sure does. I can't wait to get to one of these. I know we'll touch on when they're coming up shortly. But tell us a little bit about the show and how's it put together. And obviously you guys are the brains behind it, but just tell us a little bit about the rest of the show and who else is in it.
Go, Damo.
Yeah, 2010, Dave and I and my friend Dan and Adam, a band I had called the Quality Lightweights, went to Perth. Long story short, we needed to play some happy music because my music was a bit of a drag and still is in some ways. It's melodramatic and whatnot. Nice, but we wanted to get an audience at this winery we were playing at a festival to be, really to start dancing and get into it. So Dave and I were thinking, let's do some of the numbers we've done before in his band. I played in his band, so we used to play a couple of Elvis songs. Then we're like, yeah, we'll play Great Balls of Fire. And anyway, from there, it just worked out that we got a great response from the audience. And then my visit and his visit independently to Sun Records was around the same time. David been there quite a few times. I came back and I just said to Dave, I think we need to do something with this idea of just playing rock and roll. So we got together at his place there and just crafted out a set list, with the idea to tell the stories and to tell the funny stories. I was very lucky to record at Sun Records myself at night, just like this. And, we went in there with a bottle of scotch and the engineer, he's worked on Elvis records, everything. He's an incredible, he's got a great career, this guy. And anyway, so him and I were chatting all night and he showed me all the secret parts of the place and all these great little, told me stories, played tapes back. And I thought, wow, I'm armed with some pretty serious stuff here. And coupled with Dave's knowledge of Elvis and the rest of the crew, we could really craft something together. So that's how it came about. And then we worked on it for nearly a year, I reckon, which is different to what we've done with our original music. And we went ahead and eventually it was ready. We had Trent McKenzie come on board with upright bass. Had a guy called Danny playing guitar with us at the time, right at the beginning, who was fantastic. And then we had Adam, and we played our first gig, and that was at the Toff in town, Dave, and that was on the 16th.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
16th of August, 2012.
Yep,
2012. Yeah, and it was great. And from there, we worked out. Look, I reckon we could get into a performing arts center market, and it took a lot of time, but we did it, and we've enjoyed some seriously great shows, and got a little bit of a following now, and we can go to different places and play, and it's been a one hell of a ride, and been enjoyable to grow, with the other guys and stuff like that. I should say that Adrian came on board very shortly after. He's our guitarist now, has been pretty much since the beginning, and he's wow. I mean, he does the Carl Perkins stuff and everything just like brilliantly. Great band.
Yeah, it certainly does. That's been good fun. He's back.
I'm back, and I get to ask the honourable question of, boys, it's great to hear you talking, but let's hear a song.
All right. All right, let's do that.
I'm going to because I know I just can't wait. As I said, when I saw this was coming on, I'm a big fan of the King. I had a bit of a chuckle the other day, Dave, when I saw how you were doing your Elvis talking to your family.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Which I thought was very enjoyable. So, yeah, by all means, boys, give us one of your, whatever one you want to play.
All right. Damo, should I maybe just kick it off? I'll
do the King for him.
Yeah, all right, cool. So, yeah, this is the first song that Elvis recorded with Sam Phillips at Sun Records, and Scotty Moore was on electric guitar, Bill Black on the double bass, and it was an old Arthur Crudup number called That's All Right. And Elvis had a couple of sessions with Sam Phillips, and things weren't sort of coming together. They weren't happening, and Sam was a bit worried that he'd maybe made a wrong decision to start working with Elvis. But anyway, towards the end of this session, Elvis pulled out the acoustic guitar and he started playing this song, and Scotty Moore jumped on and Bill Black jumped on, and they ended up recording this, which was his debut single, a song called That's All Right. Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right with you. That's all right, Mama. Now just standing where you do, but that's all right. That's all right. That's all right now, Mama. And the way you do. Well, Mama, she don't tell me. Papa don't tell me too. Some that girl you're fooling with, she ain't no good for you, but that's alright. That's alright. That's alright now, Mama, and the way you do. This is where our wonderful guitarist Adrian would play a wonderful lead break. Well, I'm leaving town, baby. I'm leaving time to show. Well, then you won't be bothered with me hanging around your door, but that's alright. That's alright. That's alright now, mama. Anyway you do. Well, I said I did. I need your loving. That's alright. That's alright now, mama. Anyway you do.
You are the king, Dave Cosma. You are the king.
No, not quite, buddy. Not quite.
Oh.
That's not just a little gentle clap for you, Dave. That's obviously a big clap for the king and what he's been able to give us and still giving us to today.
Keeps giving.
And unfortunately, Damo makes a good point of this when we talk about it, that, you know, he's kind of bit of a McDonald's thing when it comes to music. Elvis, he's just gone that far and has become that big that over pop culture and over time and over saturation, you know, we forget. And that's what we love about this show, is that this moment in Elvis's career, this moment in 1954, was the most prolific of his career. It was the moment that went on to inspire, you know, as much as Kentucky Rain, and that's a fantastic song, and that session there is a really amazing session, but everything that he did after Sun Records wasn't that inspiring. You know what I mean? It was good and it fed the masses and, you know, cool songs and everything and fun, but in terms of raw, unbridled material that influenced people, it was what he did at Sun Records that year and a half. That's where it happened. That's the stuff that the Beatles heard and went, my God, who's this? You know, how good, and inspired people thereafter that moment. So cool, that's what we love.
Dave. We were talking the other day, Dave and I, about the fact that Elvis went on and he surrounded himself with quality musicians and, you know, fantastic songwriters in the way that he would choose these songs and they would choose the songs for him. Great songs most of the time towards the end. And it's easy to say, well, yeah, Elvis, you know, he had all these guys around him and whatnot. But when you hark back to this period, to that Sun Records time, it is him in front of a mic. And as much as he's got Bill Black and, you know, and Scotty Moore on guitar, it is Elvis driving that. There's no one else driving that. He's the pilot. And that's pretty incredible, because we even say, you know, that he's not the greatest musician in the world and blah, blah, blah. But he, in so many ways, he's actually incredible. When you go back to that initial studio session, you can hear it. It's like the Jerry Lee and the rest of them, you know, Sam was able to capture this unbridled sort of vibe in the room, which is a little bit messy when you listen to it now. But Mystery Train, for an example, I mean, what a killer song. And you can't get a better recording of it, no matter how many incredible musicians you get on it with Elvis. You know, it's fascinating.
That's the original Sun Records mic, a picture of it, and that picture was taken by Damon Smith.
Yeah, when I went to Sun, there.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's the mic that Elvis would have sang into.
I might sign that for you, Dave. Next time I sign it.
Do that.
Damien, I've never traveled. I've been overseas. I've never been to America, but to go to somewhere like that and how amazing was that for you as a musician?
I love how you preface that, you know, as a musician, it was great, because it wasn't so much as a Sun Records fan, because at that point I wasn't really, I've read all the books now about Sun Records and about individual artists, but before then, when I got there, 2011, 10 years ago, I knew a bit about it, but it was as a musician. So it was incredible to be there and just to be in the room and look around. You see all the other people, you know, that are Elvis fans. It's all about Elvis, and they say there's the X that marks the spot where that mic was and where he stood, Bill, the bass player, played. And you think that's all great, but when you hear the stories of other people going in there and people that you've never heard of that could have had great careers, but didn't, you know, there is a lot of incredible talent that's gone through that door. And So to stand there and to actually play there and have now in my own studio those sessions that I've never released, I had all these songs I wanted to do, but I couldn't really concentrate. You know, I was just in there, I was just bubbling with energy, and all I wanted to do was just drink a scotch and hear these stories, you know, and while my wife filmed it, and it was bloody fantastic. It really was.
And it's incredible. Even just that in itself, it's a square room. You know, it's like sometimes you expect this. It's a room. You expect this mecca, but you walk in there, you know, and for a period of time in the 70s, it was a scuba diving shop, you know, and they went back and saved them. Thought, my God, we've got to preserve this. Yeah, let's not ruin this.
Well, those tiles weren't on there. They removed the tiles for the shop, the scuba shop. So you go in there and you do think, oh, well, this is fantastic, nostalgic, isn't it? Look at the tiles. But we don't know really if they're the right tiles, let's be frank. But what they did do is they got it back and restored it. But he's right. It became this other thing. The one thing I like to claim is that when I went back into the control room there, I actually asked if I could use the toilet. And Matt, the engineer at the time, said, "Of course you can, mate." And so while I'm in there, he comes up to the door and he was this cool cat. And he's like, "Hey, man, I thought I'd just let you know that, you know, Elvis took a shit on there, man." And I'm thinking, okay. And then he told me all these other stories that had happened in there and that they'd spoken about it in this toilet. And I thought, now that's an experience that the average, you know, tourist doesn't get, to actually go in and have a crap or a pee on the toilet, that the actual throne, King's throne.
How funny is that? Both you and Damon said about that. It's like when I was lucky enough to go to Paris. You speak about, from an art perspective, the Mona Lisa, and you go to the Louvre and you think it's going to be the biggest picture of all time. Yeah. And it's about the size of the boxes that we're looking at now.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not an artist of any, maybe a bullshit artist, put up a swear thing as, but that's why I love speaking to you. Like that's your mecca, to go to that. So to me, that I'd love listening to Elvis, but to go where he did his craft, and as you both said, started his craft. That was the beginning.
And not just him, but then you start thinking of Johnny Cash stood in this spot, and so did Roy Orbison, and so did BB King, and so did it's really mind blowing. It really, really is. It really is.
Sure is, and I think that's a good segue into discussing who the next artist is, and I think we might put it over to Damon to take us for the next one.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. For us, mate?
Well, I was thinking just before what I should do, but because we talk about Carl Perkins, you know, I might do a Carl Perkins song done by Jerry Lee, which is Matchbox Blues. Geez, he's quick on the Carl Perkins. Well, Carl Perkins.
Oh, he's
bang on the screen. Guilty.
There you go.
He's quick. I just have to name. I should name like a person you don't expect and see how quick you can get that up on the screen. You know, when Prince, the music guy, walked into Sunrex. See, it's not up on the screen.
No, it's
no Prince.
Prince Charles.
Damien, I need to tell you, Az is very quick. I'm not the technology. Az is pretty quick though, so he can get things up pretty quick. So,
you could be anywhere.
Bring this guy up.
You could be anywhere, cuz.
But that's good advertisement for the EJ session. Right. That's what I get that.
No, I get.
Oh, for sure.
Not making it about me, Aaron.
Maybe all right, cuz. We'll bring you back in a second.
So Carl Perkins, right? Where's he going? Carl Perkins. He had Jerry Lee as a piano player, so that's why I think it's important to do this. And Carl Perkins's version of Matchbox, which is an old song that I've always loved, and I heard that years ago. The idea of Matchbox Blues just kills me, because it's someone saying, you know, I'm thinking, would a matchbox hold my clothes? Which is basically saying I have 2/3 of nothing right now, you know, and I just think that's the most beautiful lyric, really. And so Carl Perkins did it, and he did it like on a guitar. He did it like this. All quick, right? And that's the way we do it in the show. But then Jerry Lee Lewis, who played piano with him, he did his own version. So I'll do that for you now. Stop talking, Damon, and play Jerry Lee Lewis's version of Matchbox.
matchbox hold my clothes. Yeah, I'm sitting there wondering, will matchbox hold my clothes? I ain't got no matches, babe. I got a long, long way to go. But I'm an old road boy, a long, long way from home. But I'm an old boy, a long, long way from home. Everything I do seems to go down really wrong. When I'm sitting there wondering, matchbox hold my clothes. Yeah, I'm sitting there wondering, matchbox hold my clothes. I ain't got no matches, babe. I got a long, long way to go.
I love it. Love it.
That's gold.
So yeah, that's
one
Jerry
thing,
Lee did that version of it, which is really swings, doesn't it? It's sexy. It's great.
Sure does.
That's just to interject. That's another really amazing thing about our show is, and I feel personally blessed that surrounded by the creme when it comes to to music, but to this genre of music in particular. We've always really pride ourselves on making the songs sound the way that they were recorded and bring it across with our own little personal twist. And having Damon on piano, he's the best in town, really, when it comes to not only that genre, but piano in general, but just kills it. We've got, as you mentioned, Trent on slap double bass, which just brings that vibe to it. Adrian on that guitar, he gets that tone and he gets that playing. And Adam Coe's such a versatile drummer. He just eats up every different requirement that's needed with percussion with the song. So it's just, that was awesome, Damon.
Yeah, thanks. Nice
that
of you
was
to
great,
say.
James.
I mean, it's a nice thing to say, but it is so true that when we get off stage, we're always so excited about each other's energy. And Adrian and I, particularly, always talk to each other. I say, "Man, I loved what you did there," and him and I will change things up ever so differently, and we always talk about it. And Dave does his couple of solo songs there, and I do one. And it is really good. The musicianship is fantastic. We're lucky to have that, because we've been in other bands where it doesn't exist to the point where you feel comfortable enough to say, "Wow, yeah, that was just incredible," and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it sure is. And obviously you mentioned that largely this group's been together for almost the 10-year mark as a conglomerate together, which is incredible in today's world and how fast paced everything is that you've been able to keep that together. So when was the last show you played now? Pre-COVID, or did you get one in between all these lockdowns?
14th of Feb 2020 was the last gig. Valentine's Day.
Was that Portland?
Yeah, Portland. Portland Arts Centre.
Yep.
No, it wasn't. It was Mount Beauty.
Oh yeah, right.
Beauty. Up near Dettering, up near Dettering, Kira Valley.
Yeah, it's Kira, absolutely. So
beautiful part of the world.
So we did look. It's amazing. That was our last gig. So it's something like, I think I worked it out the other day, 560 odd days, I think, since we've been in the room together.
How many minutes, Dave? Has it
been? and this recent, we're actually going to be in the room together last Thursday night for the first time in 18 months. And Dan put on the band, and we were unable to do that. So, we really hope that this lockdown comes out Thursday and we're able to do our scheduled shows, which are on next Saturday and Sunday. Because if not, then we go through the whole rigmarole of a reschedule and people missing out, and it'd be a real shame. So we hope, and for we're Damon and I and the guys, we've all got our own personal original stuff going on too. So, you know, we just hope that things open up and we can keep performing.
How are things going with you, Dame? I get to speak to Dave a fair bit. How are things from a WA perspective? I've been there a couple of years ago and I really enjoyed visiting. How are things over there? Like, I know we're fair two sides of the country, but how are things with the whole lockdown and all that with you guys?
Well, we let him in, mate. We let him in.
I don't know because I'm not in WA now, but initially though, I was from WA.
Delete, go back.
No, but that's fair enough. I can tell you that. I mean, I was meant to be there 3 weeks ago and couldn't go back, but my family's there, of course, so that was a bit of a blow not going back. But I spoke to them tonight, and they're going out for my brother-in-law, Chris Lambert, for his birthday, and you know, they're doing pretty well. I mean, just when they said we're going out for dinner and they're going to this great Italian restaurant, and you think, it just made me think, geez, we're in a lockdown again, you know, like you feel like you just want to go out and do that yourself. And so, in other words, they're doing pretty well. You know what they do over there with McGowan, he just sort of closes the border at the smell of a bit of journalistic prose coming through. They might have a case over there in Melbourne. Shut him down. You know,
we try at times not to get political in this, but I spoke to someone today who, a friend of both Aaron and I, just a local couple. I think we all, and when I say we all, musicians, workers, whatever, we just would like a little bit of consistency and certainty. I know that's simplifying.
It's a hard thing to.
It's a hard thing to do. But
it's a hard thing to do, and I mean, I keep hearing, and we all keep hearing that the idiom, and I've said this before, but you know, we're in the same boat, and I think it's got to the point now at the 6th lockdown, whereas we understand we are in very similar boats, but there's different sized vessels and different captains steering the bastard, and I think that
split ends, mate. I think we might be in split ends' boat.
You know what I mean? And so, and I said to someone today, we went on this beautiful walk with a friend, and I said, you know, I get it. We are all in the same sort of sandwich. But I do know a lot of people, if they lost, you know, the amount of money that maybe myself or other people are losing in the industry as a creative, if you suddenly said, hey, we're going to take $7,000 away from you if you're an accountant or what you are, I'm sure that they would be going, what? Well, how do I get that back? You know, the first step you do is try and get that back. But it's very difficult in some ways because now they've stopped actually rebooking in some places, particularly Perth. They're not going to rebook because they're worried about having interstate artists coming over and, you know, not being able to come over, and then they have an empty theatre that night. So there are many, many problems with the situation. So we just hope that people do the right thing and, you know, bloody just do the right thing.
It is simple. Just do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variables, isn't there?
I didn't know. I just, because in doing the 50 episodes we've done, to me, listening to Dave, listening to Damon, Joyce, all the different people we've had on, my heart, and I know yours does as well, as like you introduced me back into the live music scene, my heart bleeds for them because I listen to these people and they're not what you consider famous musicians, for want of a better word. They are your normal run-of-the-mill people trying to make a living, and I think yes, they're in the same boat, but as you said, Damien, it's a different boat. So I wanted, by being a part of this, I hope that helps them.
Yeah, I think it does.
I think we do it.
I said before, you guys have done such a great job, and it's a conduit that allows us to reach out, allows you to reach out as well, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, it's one thing that I think would be a great thing for more people to try and understand is that there are people that are musicians and creatives, and they're not all at Beyonce's level. But some people think that if you're not at that level, then you're failing as a musician. But there's different levels of being a musician, being a creative, like there is being a plumber or anything else. So all those people are losing out in some way, and there's not a lot of ways for us to financially gain, get money back. So, but it will change, and hopefully it will get stronger, and we'll be all better off. You know, in 50 years in 2063 when the lockdown ceases.
Thanks. I'll be how old again?
Yeah,
93 by then. Would it be
Hopefully
time for another song, maybe?
Yeah.
you can do
What
that,
was that?
Cuz, if you like.
What was that?
I think it might be time for another song.
Bloody oath. Who's up?
Are we
Am I up?
Can we,
Dave.
As long as Damon can do another one.
I don't care if I don't do another. That's all right.
He's another bit. Arguably, that you'd say Elvis is the biggest. Before I say anything, either of you guys recognise it. I'm not going to do one of his songs, but I just thought I'd play this. You can't play Damo because you know the answer. Anyone watching can play.
Before you put it up, is my buzzer my name? What do I have to do? Is the buzzer?
No, it just talk. Who do you reckon that is?
Wouldn't be this guy, would it?
Yep.
Who?
Yeah, I'm going to go with.
Dave didn't even know that version of the dude.
Is it the man in? Is it the man in black?
Here's the test back, Dave. Who's this guy?
Oh,
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. That's our guitarist Adrian White by the looks of it.
Great shot.
Is it the man in black?
Yeah, and that is the Big O.
Big
Have
O.
a look at him. Wasn't he a cute little? Wasn't he cute?
Right.
He was, and a lot of people haven't looked back and seen an old catalogue of the Big O and see what he really looked like underneath those big glasses that we kind of remember from so many years. But he was
That's right.
a good
And
cat.
he's remembered for those big ballads for Pretty Woman and Only the Lonely. But he started at Sun Records playing, like, hey baby, jump over here when you do the ooby dooby. I just gotta be near ooby dooby. So he's doing sort of rockabilly, rock and roll stuff. He was, and then he got this ballad fever and went on. But he recorded his debut single there at Sun Records, as did this guy here. You touched on him, Cuz, a bit of the Man in Black, probably the second biggest name to maybe come out of Sun Records, Johnny Cash. I hear the train a-coming, it's a-rolling around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when, but I'm stuck in Folsom Prison. Time keeps dragging on, and I hear that whistle blowing on down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mother told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. Well, I bet there's rich folks sitting in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. But those people keep on moving, and that's what tortures me. Yeah. Well, if they free me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
Hey, it was David
Fantastic,
Cosma
Dave.
with Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. Good on you there, Dave.
That's beautiful, Dave.
Mate, that was gold, Dave. Gold.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, he's a beauty, Johnny Cash. I didn't write the song, mate.
I do
Absolutely.
sometimes refer to our colleague in the top right corner as Johnny Cash because he does like to wear black a fair bit.
He does. He's a
Here
beauty.
he is.
A Dave special.
That's a great photo. And just to interject by saying that Adrian White, our guitar player, does all the Johnny Cash songs in the show. So you get a variety of me singing and Damon singing, and everyone sings actually. Adrian has a sing, and Adam has a bit of a sing, and Trent gets in there with a little bit of a tricky bloody sing. So it's good fun.
Yeah, it is. That's fantastic. I really look forward to seeing one of these. Hope, fingers crossed. I think we're all super hopeful that we could pull this together in a week's time.
Yeah.
But I suppose we all need to be sadly realistic that it may not happen. And
what do you reckon?
like
What's the go? Do we go? What if you had to make a call now?
Well,
Let's not harp on, cuz I don't want a thesis. I want a are we coming out Thursday or are we going another week or two?
You're not reading the news, cuz.
Give me an answer.
Okay. Answer? No.
No what?
We're not coming out on Thursday.
All right. Damo.
But
Right,
next Sunday, you're all on the show, though, the whole band.
Cuz.
I'm being honest.
I think you're right. I don't think that it's going to happen because based on what's happened in lockdown 5 and 4 was pretty good, wasn't it? 4 was pretty good because it just went,
really,
we did our 5 days and that was it. But we'll have to wait and see. Yesterday's numbers were not too flash. So we've still got a bit of time till Thursday.
11 today was a little bit more optimistic, though, wasn't it? Surely. Let's just hope.
Particularly because they were isolated, or in isolation and stuff, as far as I saw. But I mean, I'm not Brett Sutton, so I can't tell you exactly.
Thank God.
Yep. What do you reckon?
We might believe you, Damo. We might believe you.
I'm not as handsome as Brett Sutton.
Aaron, don't get political again, mate. Come on, let's be nice.
Right, okay.
What do you reckon, Az?
Look, it's a tough challenge, no doubt, for everyone. I'd like to see it. It's looking like that it's in regions or areas. I would love to see they start opening some doors and keep the western side locked down. Being a northern suburbs boy, I think we could make a gig happen out this way. And to be quite selfish, I hope they leave the borders locked for a little while because we keep all those great Melbourne musicians in Melbourne playing gigs. We're just got to open our Melbourne venues. And just a shout out not only to our artists that we touched on before, but all the venues that are all doing it tough, just as tough as well, from everyone from the cleaner to the food chefs to the guy pulling beers.
True.
It's not an easy exercise at the moment for anyone. But as a punter at a venue, the reschedule thing, it's kind of become the new norm. But it's really hard to get artists and most importantly, the whole show together. And what you've got is an entire show that you got to try and do the entire logistics on, and that's not easy. And to do it in one venue is a tough gig. You really got to get it on the road and get multiple shows under your belt, where you can actually start to make a few bucks. So just tell us a little bit about that 50s, 60s scene and what's that really like in Melbourne and Australia? Where have you really found it that it really connects mostly out of all the shows you've done so far?
And Coolangatta was pretty amazing.
There's definitely a scene in every every state. There's a scene, whether it's the rockabilly scene or the rock and roll dance scene. There's definitely a scene, and they come together a few times a year, be it the Coolangatta Rock and Roll Festival or Grease Fest, or there's a couple of others that happen. We've been a part of a few, and they've all been a pretty good scene to be part of. There's not one really that particularly stands out. There's just and they're right into it. They're into it. Having said that, again, the thing with this show is it goes beyond. It's amazing how many even teens we see at our show that are starting to wanting to listen to this music and to learn about it. And clearly baby boomers or anyone in their 50s onwards, 60s onwards has got probably a closer affiliation with the music, having lived through the era somewhat. So they're reliving their youth or whatever it is that they're doing. But the connection that this music has, it's quite phenomenal.
It's interesting you say that about the teens and that, Dave, that you get coming to these things. My eldest son's nearly 18, younger son's 13. Now, I'm not a super fan, but The Voice is on tonight. Now, the first singer on The Voice tonight came out, a 52-year-old man from South Australia. Started playing the harmonica and started singing a Creedence Clearwater Revival song.
Yeah. His voice and all that.
Both my sons knew the song because they heard it
There you go.
They knew the song. They go, "Oh, that's that song," straight away. Which to me, how good's that?
Yeah.
And that's the same. I think you get with the Elvis thing and that. You hear it and they go, "Oh, Dad, that's that old song that you listened to on Gold 104." But it's a great song still.
Yeah, the old Dad's channel, eh? Gold 104.
The channel.
Mind you, when I was growing up, Gold 104 played, genuine 50s and 60s. Now Gold 104 is the 80s and 90s.
They're playing Pearl Jam now.
There you go.
Was it 3XY that played with Greg Evans? Played it back in the early 80s for me.
Yeah,
that was the hot station where the hot songs were played.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And we can't wait to see big shows out in venues like this once again. How awesome would that have been to see?
Hey,
I'll
show you something that
killer shot.
Look at this. He's Mr. Props, isn't he? So Damon, while he's moved away for a sec, when he comes back with once he gets himself on the screen, when Dave brings back his prop, mate, would love to another song from you too, buddy.
This is another photo taken from that day, which was the Welcome Back to Tupelo big bloody festival they had for the King. They welcomed me back to the fairground. At the fairground there, Damo. And so that's another photo from another perspective. And this bit of timber, this bit of wood, is from that stand that you can see in the background there. This stand here.
Fantastic.
It's like a relic.
Hey, what do you reckon about that? What
do you got for us, Damo?
Just before you do, Damo, I just want to touch on one of the comments that came all the way from Canada this morning that desperately wanted to get up and see this show, who's a massive 50s fan, and just wanted to know that it's not a backdrop that Dave's got behind him. It's actually the real deal and a real venue. Not a venue. It's a shed with some awesome memorabilia. I must admit, it's a bit more than a shed. I must admit, Dave, isn't it? It's a
man cave.
It's a soundproof. Well, speaking of Sunrising, this is where we've rehearsed for 10 years. We rehearse in this. It's a little soundproof space that I built, about 15 years ago. And this is where we rehearse and play music.
Yep, it's awesome. And also Damo's little setup down there. We had the pleasure of having Damo on probably early in the piece, to be honest, Damon. I can't remember which show it was, but it was fairly early, and it was a great Sunday afternoon.
About a year ago or something.
Yeah, it's gone. Time's definitely flown past.
Don't say you. That seems make a sense.
Yeah, it was a while.
It was
May.
Everything's
June.
been on the slow.
Yeah.
But what I would definitely want you to do is check out sunrising.com. That's Sunrising Australia, mind you. And that's where all the details are in relation to the show and about Dave and Damon and the rest of the crew. And fingers crossed, one of these gigs can happen 14th or 15th of August. We're all crossing fingers, toes, and all sorts of things to see if we can get this happening. If not, guys, is there been one planned further into more dates than that?
Well, yeah, we're heading back to that. We're heading back to Yay to do a show, but I mean, obviously, it doesn't help us out in the city. But I would think that we'll be good with Mimo. We'll definitely have another date. if this one doesn't go ahead, and hopefully the drum as well. So there'll be something before the end of the year. But then again, we don't know if there's going to be a lockdown or some sort of a typhoon that comes through and takes us all. But we'll see. Only be hopeful, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Just before you play one last one to take us out, Damo, I just want to touch on another place you can catch up with Dave Cosma, davidcosma.com, and also damonmarksmith.com. So, boys,
good man.
Everyone, make sure you get out and check out these artists. If not,
again,
go,
sorry,
guys.
Damo, we do want to hear a song from you. I'm not going to ask
let's
Dave
hear
the
from
question
Damo.
because he knows the question. Every guest we've had on the show, but I know you've been on the show before. Did we ask you? Now, I understand what legends went through Sun Records. Have you had the dinner question?
Me or Dave?
You're having a dinner party. You can invite 5 people to dinner.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, because we're talking about Sun Studios, who would you like to invite?
Do I have to say Sun Studio people, or is this generally like people that I
just thought in light of what we're doing with Sun Studio.
Okay. Because I was going to say that I wouldn't have any Sun guys on it just because there's so many other incredible people in the world that have inspired me. But I'm going to do that's not because they're not any better, but I don't know if they're overly interesting people at a dinner party. I don't know if they're going to entertain me. So, but I reckon Jerry Lee would be entertaining, so he could be there.
Absolutely.
There he is there. Yeah. Now I reckon Johnny Cash.
He's quick, isn't he? He's quick.
Johnny Cash would be good. We've got a Johnny Cash.
There
Same one as before. Can you get us another different one? Jeez.
Sorry about that. We're going to the tape.
You'd have to have Howlin Wolf there, and you'd have to get a pretty big chair for him because he was a big man.
He was a big man, wasn't he?
Yeah,
There's a picture of his shoe where he had to cut the end of his shoe out so the toes could poke through.
Have a look at Dave in the top corner. He's about to go to the props. What do you got for us, Dave?
He's about to pull out Howlin Wolf's shoe, and he's going to show you the shoe.
We've got 2 to come.
No shoes.
The Sun Records. I reckon that you'd probably have. I got to say Elvis, don't I? I can't not say Elvis.
Let's go with Howlin Wolf first. There we go.
Well, there's Howlin.
There's a Wolfie.
We can't miss the Wolf.
The Wolf.
Let's give it Elvis.
Wolf there. It's the King.
The King. Now, no pressure, mate. You've got 1 spot left at the table.
Well, it would have to be Sam Phillips.
Definitely.
Then you've got me again now.
He's in trouble now. He's got nothing for you.
I didn't get the
It
list.
have to be Sammy Phillips.
Jeez, the most important man dishing.
Damien,
I know.
can I tell you,
Just
can
on
I
that,
tell you
boys.
why Dave and I are laughing?
Oh, what am I doing?
Because- Because Aaron loves to make fun of me all the time. This is the only time he's not going to. Well, there it is. Sam Phillips.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
We'll leave that one to you, Dave.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's a look at that. Have him come to your dinner party.
Excellent.
Or that one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Might even be the same shot.
It is the same.
Perfect.
It looks like the same shot.
But just on that, I mean, how awesome would the energy of this room been?
Oh yeah, can you imagine?
Like that is the ultimate for me. Like
You
what
know,
a great.
Aaron, like that photo there was a couple of versions of that. You can find different. That's the main one. And you probably know this, but over on the other side of the piano was a showgirl that Elvis was working with in Vegas. You'll see it here. And you can see her. She's on the other side of the piano.
Yep.
And they cropped it. So they cropped it when it went into the paper.
Right.
But I liked finding that out because it was interesting because they're all looking at something and something's going on. Yeah, but of course, she wasn't important in the 50s, and let's crop her out. Just have a whole bunch of blokes in there.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, what a moment in time.
Hello to our family audience, by the way, too. They're very important to all of us.
I think Louisa was tuning in and Naomi was there. I think Sophie was there. There was a few people tuning in, which is nice.
Which is great.
It was. What else would you be doing on a lockdown Sunday night before?
Seriously.
before homeschooling tomorrow.
It wasn't a trick question. Now, Damien, apologies for all the interjections. Please,
get a song,
another
mate.
What a song. I just wish I had some sort of, before when Dave showed you that, you called it a prop, but his bit of wood that he got from up the road and pretends that it came from Memphis. Well, that bit of wood.
Don't say that.
No, it is from Memphis. I was thinking when you said, hey, come on, you got to do one now. I thought you meant I had to give you a prop, and I don't have anything like that. But I do have some chewing gum that I took off John Farnham, threw it on the ground, and I went and grabbed it. And then just as I went to grab it, just a punter stepped on it, and I had to follow this guy, no joke, over the road. He got into a taxi. I followed the taxi. Eventually, I found the guy, took it off his shoe, and I still have that gum from John Farnham.
Beautiful.
It's pretty amazing. And I'd have him at a dinner party too, I reckon. 6 people. Nice. Is that allowed?
It's your dinner party, mate.
One more paddle.
What do you want? The voice? The voice, or do you want a bit of
What about Sadie, the cleaning lady?
Oh yeah.
Hello to John, by the way.
Elton John, did you say?
No, hello to John. He's a big fan of the show.
Oh. I'm going to do Lucky Old Son. This is a song that Jerry.
Oh, yes.
And one of the best versions I've ever heard of this song, because it is an incredibly beautiful song. One of the great versions is by Johnny Cash, and it's on the Rick Rubin American series. I can't remember which one it is, but Jerry Lee's solo piano version is great as well. Up in the morning, out on the job, I work like a devil for my pay. While that lucky old son has got nothing to do, he just rolls around heaven all day. I fight for my wife, sweat for my kids. I sweat till I'm wrinkled and gray. Why that lucky old son has got nothing to do, he just rolls around heaven all day. Why that good Lord above, won't you hear me whining? I've got these tears in my eyes. Sail me down the cloud with the sea for lining. Take me to paradise. Come on over, baby. Whole lot of shit been going on. Yes, I said, come on, baby. Baby, you can't go wrong. I am begging, got a whole lot of shit going on. Yeah, come on, baby. We got jingles in the bar. Come on, baby. We got the blues by the horn. I am begging, got a whole lot of shit. Yeah, I said shake it, baby, shake it. I said shake it, baby, shake it. I said shake it, baby, shake it. Shake it, baby, shake it. Come on, oh, lot of shaking going on. I said shake it, baby, shake it. Shake it, baby, shake it. I said shake it, baby, shake it. I shake it, baby, shake it. Hey, come on over, baby. Oh, my shake going on. You just annoyed the neighbours.
Thanks for keeping the neighbours up. I think it's
well done, mate.
the most awesome part about that is this is the 50th show, and this is the only show that Cuz hasn't fallen asleep in. So, boys, that is a massive effort. A massive effort.
See what I mean? He just can't help himself, can he? You just can't be upbeat. You just got to be nasty. But that's okay. I'm a bigger person.
Not at all.
He probably says lovely things to you on the other side of the camera. I'm not sure. There he goes. The Bombers is going on.
Let's get amongst it, Dave. Let's just get amongst it again. 1964. Long time ago.
It was.
It was.
Melbourne last one to fly.
Well, given tonight, we're all living in the past, and we're talking about the past, and we'll never forget the 50s, Elvis and his crew that have come along for the ride, and long may it continue. And boys, a massive effort keeping those vibes happening, and look forward to seeing you at the next big show. Dave, I know you've got a Tribute Tuesday coming up honouring the great Elvis.
Hopefully, hopefully that happens, mate.
That might be one of the first gigs out of lockdown.
That might happen.
Let's hope. And Damon, hopefully I can see you at somewhere like the Ragtime Bar or somewhere like that and doing your thing, mate. So we really look forward to it. Just let us know and keep us in touch with what's happening, and we will spread our little network out to as many people as we can. And we look forward to catching up with you guys again soon. Thanks for joining us on.
Thanks so much, Aaron, for having
Thanks
us.
really a lot, boys. Great show. Thanks for coming.
Good to
Thanks,
see you
guys.
three. Good to see you three. Thanks for having us. Thanks.
No worries.
All good.
See you guys.
Ta-da.